Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. I am very excited to have a returning guest to the show, but before I introduce you to him, for those of you who may not know who he is, I do want to just announce really quickly that for those of you who have been waiting, I have finally opened the doors to my healing mastermind. The doors will be open from August 27th to the 31st. This is an incredible healing container that I am using to do a lot of group coaching and healing. And it is going to be very, very powerful. If you are interested in learning more about it, email me or DM me on Instagram, the word mastermind, and I will send you all the information so you can see if it's a fit for you. Now, let's get on to why you're really here. And that is because I have Rob, the E.T Whisperer, back again on the show. I think you were here a couple of years ago, but Rob is one of the most respected trance channelers in the world. For more than a decade, he has helped thousands of individuals receive clarity on their life path and mission. And Rob primarily works with three main guides, Aridif, and Metatron. But he has channeled hundreds of ET consciousnesses. So Rob is also an in-demand speaker and teacher and has been featured in many documentaries, internet shows, interviews, and books for his unique channeling abilities. Rob, it's so good to see your face and have you back on the show.
Thank you, Nicole. I always love being here, and I really love your show and the way that you connect with your guests. And your audience is amazing too, so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Well, I know that they are a big fan of you. Your show was a huge hit last time. Gosh, I think, has it been at least 2 or 3 years since?
It's
I think,
probably been at least two, yeah.
yeah, it's been a
I think
while.
so.
So, all right, well, the world is very different.
It is.
And just before we kind of hit the record button here, we are currently in an election cycle year, which always drums up the chaos and increases the divide of the polarities even further and just loves to stir up everyone's emotions, specifically anger and outrage and, all those wonderful emotions. How have you been, what's been your viewpoint on all of it so far for 2024?
Yeah, see, I agree with you. The energy of people around politics becomes sometimes either inflamed with anger, sadness. There's usually a heavy amount of emotion. So it's either really good emotion or really a bad emotion. And there's a lot of dividing there. So for me, my whole perspective is a lot different. I'm very much a centralist in my perspective of politics. I have some of the ideologies of left leaning, some of the ideologies of right leaning. I also would probably describe myself more as a constitutionalist or a libertarian, even though libertarian tends to be perceived as more right wing. It's really not. It just means the liberty of the person before the government's rule, meaning that government shouldn't be making a ton of rules about what people should or shouldn't do, as long as it's not harming, affecting other people, and as long as it's constitutional. So it's very much in alignment with the way that the Constitution was written for the United States. And I know a lot of your viewers aren't necessarily from the US, but a lot of people do kind of pay attention to the politics in the US. So for me, I put my personal opinions about politics aside when I talk to people about politics because I understand politics aren't just a game of let's join the left or let's join the right. We vote red or we vote blue. It really has to do with the way that people perceive their reality. So I have really extreme right-wing friends, really extreme left-wing friends, like on the far edges and skirts, and I can talk with them all about politics. And I can talk with them because I understand why they feel that way. When people just say, "Hey, I'm a Republican, so I'm going to vote that way," or "Hey, I'm a Democrat, so I'm going to vote that way," that doesn't always sit well with me because the understanding of politics is a very intentional thing. There is so much involved in it. And you know, I really do have a lot of understanding about politics, even though I don't like politics. I understand the essentialness of politics. Politics in general, you can look at it really kind of two ways. One way is it's the way that our social structure work. It's the way that our laws are made, the way that our economy works, the way that our soldiers work, and kind of everything between. And that's true. So it does. It affects everyone, whether you like politics or not. It will directly affect you. Or you can look at it at a spiritual aspect, that the desire inside of people trying to manifest the reality that they want goes through this channel of politics, and the creations are created there. And because people's beliefs are so different about how they want to make changes, then it ends up being that fight in the middle with politics. But I've always realized, honestly, everyone I know from the left, everyone I know from the right, they all want the same thing.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, they want peace. They want the ability for them to have freedom. They want the ability to financially do well. They want the ability to have their loved ones feel safe, be safe. And they want to have that energy behind being able to do the best that they can do in life. So it is. It's really a kind of a mixture of things, but the way that they believe, the way that they were taught about anything. I mean, you could look at any very bad, argumentative topic about politics, guns, abortion, any of those things, and you can throw them on the table and say, "Talk to me about this. How were you raised? What do you feel about these things? Why do you think these ways about that?" And even with strong opinions, there's a path you can see. Oh, this person was always in danger as a child, and guns feel this person feels that they can protect themselves with guns, or this person is very deeply ingrained in the ideology of holding guns so that governments don't overtake your rights, or whatever the case is. Same with anti-guns. Oh my God, I was shot at. I don't like guns around. I think nobody should have them. There's a genuine feeling behind these ideas. It's not just well, my side says that they should do this, so that I'll do that. And I've seen that. That's why it doesn't sit well with me. There's always got to be a reason for people to feel the way that they do. And my whole perspective is let's stop judging each other about what we believe and try to figure out why we believe that. So I've been putting as much energy as I can into it without causing myself craziness, because it is such an intense thing and people have such deeply ingrained beliefs. The media that presents the information to the public lies all the time, both sides, left and right,
Mm.
always telling only the facts that help their side and twisting the facts that make the other side look bad. I legitimately communicate with people every day on social media that believe these very easily checked on things that aren't true. Like 100%, you can look and, oh, this candidate, Donald Trump said this during an interview, or Kamala Harris said this during an interview. You can go to the interview and listen and put it in full context and say, no, that's not even what they said at all. But people still believe it, and they believe it because that's the media's job. The media wants to make you angry or make you happy, but they know if they make you angry, you're more likely to click and get engaged, and that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
So it really is a really rough thing.
It's a game. You need to know how to play it. And it's funny when you talk about politics just in general, it's kind of like the necessary evil of our world in a way. Like I do, like there's a part of me obviously that I'm like, oh, I just wish we didn't have like this crazy political, background that we have to always like listen to. But at the same time, when in on this planet, I see politics as well as a very important teacher for us to navigate duality. Like what better of a place to learn the ability to stay neutral, to find that place of neutrality than through the world of politics. It's almost like politics is like that, I don't know, that X that caused you all the trauma, but like it was so necessary for you to really understand all the lessons and get you to the place that you're at now so that you can really catalyze what's inside of you for good. It's like that's how I kind of see politics in a sense for our world.
I agree with you 100%. There's these very blatant and big things that happen. And even, this is the beautiful thing. I really think, though, the last two elections before this one has really drummed up the drama and the fighting. And I don't like that part of it, but I like that people are starting to have really heavy recognitions that, oh my gosh, I really believed these things. And then all of a sudden I see the news saying opposite things. And then I actually pay attention to what the other side says. And I look and I realize how much I thought I believed that wasn't true, or how much the system itself is designed to create that energy of dispute, which keeps people arguing. Now, I'm a little bit kind of people call it black pilled about politics. I don't like it. I too think it's necessary, just like you. I think it's a great lesson teacher and a great way for people to put their energy into manifesting larger things for the collective. But I also feel very distraught about it.
Oh, yeah. I feel I can barely tap in. I can only tap in for a few minutes and I got to pull myself out because it's just so unhealthy for me. I know me and where I'm strongest and I'm not strongest when I'm tapped into politics.
it's kind of designed to do that. And this is something I mean too. If you look at America, because that's the politics I
Yeah,
know
me
about.
too.
But if you look at America, America was designed, um, and people even say it's a democracy. Well, it wasn't. It's actually a constitutional republic. And what a republic does that a democracy doesn't do, a democracy votes on everything. A republic, you have this constitution that gives you rules and laws. And they say there's no way to change the laws unless everyone can agree about it. And then they did that. And then that changed to a majority. And then it changed to a lot of other things. But originally, the Constitution was meant for the people to have power, to have representatives, and the people would give representatives to the city, and then the cities to the state, or the cities to the county to the state, and then the state would be its own entity and would give their votes to the federal government. So it was from the people upward. That's the power was in the people. And it was designed that way because they watched England be a tyrant to themselves and the rest of the countries that they were ruling for hundreds of years. So they broke that chain and created this kind of amazing document that if they would have kept doing it the way that they did then, it would be a whole different world right now. But as time progressed and power becomes part of the politician and power becomes part of the corporation and power becomes part of the money, then all of a sudden you have the exact opposite. Now the federal governments tell the states what to do, the states tell the counties what to do, the counties tell the cities what to do, and the cities tell the people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So all in all, now we're at the bottom of the chain instead of the top.
Yes.
And that's why I'm kind of consider myself a constitutionalist, because I think the Constitution, even though it was written by imperfect people, the Constitution was one of the closest things to perfection that was written. Despite the horrible things that happened during that time. I know a lot of people say the Constitution is horrible because it was written by a slave owner. Well, of course, those people did not have a good sense of morality about their daily lives, but of course that was normal. Abortion is normal now. If that ever changes, maybe 100 years from now, people say, "Oh, that was horrible," and maybe they won't. But the fact is, things change. As a
Mhm.
society, we learn to accept different things. And back then, slavery was all around the world. So these people were imperfect, but collectively they came together with an idea that really, really would have served us well if it would have stayed the way it was. And even though it created things that were good, America does have a lot of beautiful things about it. Um, we've had innovators and people who've kind of led the world in all sorts of different things, music, art, movies. So there is that beauty there still, but people don't realize the power that they have because of the way this original structure that made sure everyone knew exactly how much power they had to this place where you're just like, okay, well, we'll take the less of two evils. And that's never how it was meant to be. So I am very much not liking politics, but understanding the game, like you said, is a big part of learning how to engage with it and how to engage with others when doing it. But I think if people realized if left and right kind of stopped fighting about those very few things that they don't get along about and focus on the things they did want, like we want to be happy, we want to have freedoms, we want to have A, B, and C, we want to be able to have healthcare, whatever it is, and come together and just say that, the politicians would have to listen. They don't listen now because they only have to pay attention to half the country. And with only half the country worried about fighting the other half instead of facing the politicians and kind of saying that, hey, what you guys are doing is not good. You're taking money, stealing money, extorting money, using money, whatever your complaints with the government is. If you said it as one, it would be recognized. You see small countries doing this all the time. Um, just I think it was Uzbekistan or Turkestan, one of the Russian breakup countries, just 2 years ago, kicked their government out. Iceland did it in 2017, or maybe it was 2011 or 2012. Just kicked their government out and said, "Hey guys, we're done dealing with corruption. We're done dealing with stupidity. You guys are going to jail and we're putting new people in, normal people, and we're making a system where every average day Joes can do this without the incentive of making your families rich and all of these other things. So we can create a system, but when we're divided, we can't. And because everyone fights each other, they don't have the excitement to take that to the government and say, hey guys, A, B, and C needs to stop and we need to take a different course. And again, I know that the polarity kind of does. It pulls people apart so much that it's hard to agree on the things you want. But if you start at the place where you agree and then work on it from there, it gets a lot easier.
Well, I think too, like everything has a purpose and there's reasons why we are where we are right now. And we can say, well, yeah, it's because of certain choices that we've all collectively made over time. And yes, but it also feels like that was part of a cycle, you know? And
Mm,
what I'm curious to know your thoughts on, because we look at this current election cycle that we're going into, and it is unlike any election cycle that has ever, came before it. And so to me, when I see how crazy and well, what's the right word I'm looking for? Let's just say it's not on par with anything that we've ever seen before. That tells me that there is a serious breakdown in play, right?
mm,
We are seeing the collapse of the system. Now, we've been seeing the collapse for quite some time, but it's really in your face when you have an election cycle like this presenting as it is.
mm. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's something that actually, Lee Harris was about the only channeler I had heard. And this was multiple years after Treb and Aridif had shared some things, but they always talked about 2012. Why is 2012 so important? And they said, listen, 2012 is just the middle of a cycle, and the cycle is 9 years before it, 9 years after. And 9 years after that cycle, was 2021 when the world
Mm.
really started just so I knew something was coming. I knew something that would be altering to the rest of our time and energy would be there. I didn't know what it was or how it would work. But then when I saw it, I knew exactly what was going on. The cycles are there, they're real, the cycles of energy. And they had always said leading up to this, in order for humans to understand the world they want, they have to see the world they don't want. And most humans kind of hide from those things out of fear, out of complacency, out of apathy, out of just being so busy trying to make it in life, trying to feed your kids or your family or do successful work or whatever it is that you're pouring your time and energy into. You don't have time to kind of look and say, wow, this is really weird how bad this system is and how long it's lasted. But we have to see that. So what are we going to do as a collective energetically to see that? We create that chaos. We create something that's so different from the way that we've always saw things that you have to pay attention. Everyone has to pay attention. Pandemics, crazy elections with characters that you would never imagine would or should or could have
Yeah.
been. All of these weird, absolutely crazy things, and they are all just within a few years span. And it does exactly that. It tells people, look at the system of government, look at the systems of schooling, look at the systems of healthcare, look at the systems of social things, look at the systems of A, B, and C and D. Wow, these are broke. We need to figure out a better way. And you can't get to that point where you say we have to figure out something different until you realize how bad what you're doing is. And I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And even when I look at the astrology of like what's kind of coming up in November, it doesn't look like well, I should say it looks very similar in a sense of what happened in 2020, where there was not there wasn't a announced winner on the night of. There's like, no, we got to keep counting and we got to, and it looks like we're going to have a similar kind of experience
Mm.
just because when you look at the charts of all the people running, everyone looks like the winner. Well, it shows that um their enemy is winning. Their enemy has victory. And so when everyone's enemy has victory, it's like, well, who's really the victor there? So I don't know what that actually means, but
That
and
could
I
be
mean,
crazy.
yeah, so I have no, all I know is it's going to be a disastrous, chaotic mess, and um yeah, practicing neutrality now would be
Hmm.
a good method for your mental wellness leading into November. But it's at the end of the day, what I think is so important is to see that when there is this much un when there's this much happening in the political sphere that has never ever there's no precedence of this ever before, that has to speak volumes as to change is coming. I mean, it's already in play. We don't know how it's changing exactly yet or where it's taking us, but change is in play.
I love that. I resonate with that very much. And I agree the energy of how different, how unstable and how crazy things are going to be. Yeah, that's very interesting. You said that both sides show that their opponent will win. That's very interesting because um who are their opponents? Are they their own opponent? Are they each other's opponent? Is there other forces at play that are the opponent of one and or both? That's very interesting. I,
Yeah.
I I'm gonna I've had many thought. I've done the thought process with this. Treb and Aridif won't ever really share. Hey, what's in the future? They
No,
can
because
tell
it's not
you.
helpful.
Sure. And even if, it could change in 30 seconds anyway. The minute you decide something completely different, then your version of reality is going to change anyway. So yeah, but I've done my own mental reps about because, on social media, they always give you the most intense versions of the left and the right, and they
Mhm.
put those at the very front for the same reason the news people do, for clicks and engagements and to get people angry and or
Yeah,
happy,
outrage.
excited. Yeah, and I mean, I've literally heard both sides, left and right, say if the opponent wins, I swear to God, I'll pick up a gun and go into civil war. You know, I've seen that on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube even, and some YouTube comments when I look into the politics thing. So people are feeling very, very like my side has to win. And both sides have done that too, though. They've created this whole scenario like, if they win, life will always be different. The world will come to an end, basically. I've seen that said about Trump when Trump was president for 4 years, and even though some people hated it, the world didn't blow up. And the same thing with Kamala Harris being a vice president for 4 years. She was there and the world didn't blow up either, right? So,
Probably because she didn't do anything.
well, that's the possibility, yeah. And I know a lot of people speak in hyperbole, but honestly, people link that and they grab onto that.
No, I
So
know.
when
I
someone,
know. That's why I'm not that worried
sure,
about where this is go. I'm curious. I know what I would like to happen, but I mean, at the end of the day, I remember how like, distraught, like you said, people were in both 2016 and 2020, totally two different outcomes, but every time people were like the world is going to end and we're still here kicking. And I think that's just something again where we want to buy into that idea to force, someone else to see our point of view. Like if you don't see it, like you don't know what's coming down the pipeline for you. And look, I'm not saying that a lot of things are not happening that are really shitty, because I'm seeing things and I'm like, I don't like what I'm seeing in certain things, but that doesn't mean that I don't think there's a way to find solutions. Yeah, I don't feel like we're at the point of no return.
right. And that's the thing. It's politics has always gone that way. Cycles of progressives, cycles of conservatives. And like 1984 or 88, I think it was 84 when Reagan first took office. There not a ton of people were excited about him when he got in, and then they reelected him twice, and he won by landslides. And he was an actor, he was an outsider, so people thought he was great. And he came in and changed a lot of things, and he did some bad things and did some good things. As much as people hate Trump, I always tell them Trump did some good things while he was in there. It just, even Biden did some good things when he was in there. You can't you can't take away that credit of what's good or bad just because you don't like the person. And that's how I've always tried to approach people. I understand people are imperfect no matter what, so I want to see the good and the bad and know which one's more present and which one's more relevant out there. And a lot of right now is what does the world feel like now? And that's how I've heard a lot of people voting. I don't like things because the money situation, financial situation, everything costs more. So a lot of people are going to vote only on that. And then a lot of people are going to vote because they're like, if Trump wins, then everything, abortion will become illegal. That's been the talking points on the TV. So that's the one thing that they're going to vote on. And this is what I've been trying to share with people. What is the real thing in your heart that actually means something? Because I've heard grown men in their 50s and 60s, women who are beyond childbearing years, talk about abortion. And yes, it might be an important thing for you, but those things aren't affecting your life right now. So if that's something people choose to do because of the morality behind it, that's fine. That's wonderful. But most people aren't going to do that. Most people aren't going to say, I'm going to hope that homeless people can get housing when they don't know any homeless people or care about them unless they're built like that, unless they're just, but they're already doing work towards that. They're already pouring their heart and effort into it. So there's a lot of these really sharp subjects that people have committed to voting for only on that one subject, but they're
Mhm.
ignoring all of the other things. in their own life that are having hard times, but also things that are important for everybody. And you
Can I just
know,
say something about that?
sure, sure.
Because the way I see it is that a lot of our motivations to do good in this world are to overcome some of the trauma and darkness that is within us. And it's so easy to project what we want onto the outside world and use outside situations to help us feel like, one, we're at least contributing to society in a meaningful way, that it gives us a sense of purpose. And so I understand why some people are wanting to like fight for this or fight for that, even if they don't really have any great understanding of perhaps the situation. They just have like not even the Coles notes, but just like a very loose skeleton of what's kind of going on. And what I feel like would be so helpful for people is, like you said, is one, find something that you're super passionate about, that, and start understanding within yourself what's driving you to
Mm,
change that. Because when you start to work on yourself, you're already contributing to the solution of the problem.
mm,
And that's where, like, I think we want to always go outside of ourselves. And I understand where it comes from. I mean, I've done the same thing myself. But at the end of the day, that's why I focus so much on the inner work and helping other people heal within them. Because once you start to find your groove and what like lights you up and you start to heal within yourself, you're not so focused on the problems anymore. You're focused on the solutions. And the
mm.
solutions is what is going to change this world. Your consciousness level has to be in alignment with the solutions. And the only way you get there is through doing the work within yourself.
That's beautiful. You took the thoughts out of my own mind on basically that's the answer for politics, for everything. When you are in alignment with yourself, then the energy presents solution. I love that. That was beautifully said. Thank you. It's so hard for people to think, in normal circumstances, like when the thought that they've had every day is if this person wins, everything is done. The world is done. My family is done. I've had my family ripped apart by this politician or that politician. But the truth is, the people I know who actually, one of the guys I know who's the most political guy I know stopped watching the news, stopped listening to social media, doesn't go online at all anymore unless he has to do something for work or when he comes to one of the channelings, and that's it. And his life has become so much less hectic because he's not pouring his energy into the problems of the world, the problems of the things of the world that are outside of him, just like you said. And he started focusing on the things inside of him, his passions, his excitements, the work that he does in his life. He says he's never been happier in his life on a daily basis. So I really believe what you said is 100% true. And that's something, Treb Ardif have always shared. When you're doing the work internally, it's not that the world's going to be less hard. It's going to be the way you react to the hardship is going to be different and better. And it's not going to hurt so bad. It's not going to feel so nasty. And you have the recognition that solutions are now part of that experience instead of only problems. And I like how you said that because that's exactly it.
Well, because a lot of what I've noticed when a lot of people who are still moving through a lot of their pain or trauma and they haven't overcome certain things. And of course, there's always work to do. So I don't want to say like, once you overcome it, it's like perfect. It's not like that. But there's a sense of feeling stuck. There's a sense of feeling like a victim, and there's a sense of feeling hopeless. And that kind of energy only perpetuates the very existence of the reality you want to fix. And so, how do you fix it if you are the energy of the problem? You know what I'm saying? And so, it's really so important to turn inward and, if need be, turn off the outside world, like definitely put some distance between the things that are constantly triggering you so that you give yourself a chance to start healing and look at the things that you really do need to look at. And that's like so difficult to do when you turn on, the YouTube channel, the TV, it could be alternative media, it could be mainstream media. As far as I'm concerned, it all seems like shit to me, if I'm being quite honest. There's very few sources that are legitimately giving you facts without all of the emotional bullcrap behind it.
Mm.
And again, making sure that they cherry pick all the information to make it sound like it's exactly what they want you to hear, or at least exactly how they want you to perceive the world, just like them, so that you get on their side, and it forms this like warrior front line. And truly, if you're going to constantly be engaged in other people's perspectives, you're never going to understand what your perspective is
Mm.
truly, like from your very core. And one of the things that I've noticed is my perspectives have shifted so much. They've gone from one side to the other side to like a whole different dimension of sides, like where I'm like, wow, like I didn't even know it was possible to have this perspective. And now, like those perspectives that I had even just a year ago seem absolutely ridiculous and also very small-minded, because you're not able to like, it's almost like the more that you do your work, the more you're able to see things from like not just a three-dimensional aspect, but like multiple dimensions and views and ups and downs and side views and everything. Like it's just, it really expands your mind.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you a question too about one of the things that you said. You said, people who are hurt and who are traumatized and who have felt victimized, when they play into that victimization thing, they're being a part of that problem. So have you also noticed when someone who who's had dealt with a lot of trauma but hasn't processed it or healed it, when they are being in that victim mentality or victim mindset, and you're around them, that if the energy is there so much, you can actually start picking up on it yourself and start saying, man, things are tough for me on this specific thing or that, because I have noticed that that's very contagious with a lot of people.
Oh
And I
yeah.
know I know too, a lot of strong-minded people are like, well, sorry about your luck and just step away. But the energy behind is the exposure to that over and over and over again. It'll break down anyone's walls. And I think that's, why they call TV the programming, because it's these programs that say, you should be a victim, you've been wronged by this person, that person, the government, rich people, blah, 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 and put all of that energy into wanting you to kind of feel that way, to feel like, hey, my life isn't as good as it should be, or hey, look at these movie stars, they have nice car, why can't I have that? It's just kind of like a perpetual system of wanting people to feel more victimized. Because I think you're right, victimization is probably one of the strongest ones besides anger and rage, that really can hook people into that journey of downward spiral, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the problem with the victimization energy, and when I say problem, I mean the cyclical nature of it and how easy it is to stay trapped in it, is that it's it takes away your power.
Mm,
It's like you're opting when you are constantly saying, well, things are this way because of, and because of that. And it's like you don't take ownership at all. And it's not to say that, there's certain things that are maybe out of our control to some degree, but at the end of the day, you always have choices that are in your control. And what are you doing about those?
mm,
And when you constantly focus on the things that you don't have control over, well, guess what you're going to have more of? Not a lot of control. So
mm,
it really comes down to choice. And we always have choice, and people don't like to hear that, especially victims. Or when I say victims, I just mean people really kind of stuck in that energy. And trust me, I've been there. I've wallowed in it before, and it sucks. It is hard to get out of. But at the
I
end of the
think
day,
everybody has,
yeah, we
had
all
that.
have a breaking point. We do all have a breaking point, and at some point, you just say, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. And you start making changes. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing in our culture right now, in our society, is that enough is enough because people are still waiting for leaders to do the change. We're hoping that whoever we elect into office is going to be the reason why things change. And no, the reason is not them, it is you.
Mm. 100%. It's you taking action on the things you could do. It's actually funny. I've got a Facebook post I'm getting ready to release today that talks about, and I wrote it and I'm waiting to go through and reread it to fix I'm a horrible speller. So it actually talks about just that energy. You are asking these people to come and change everything. But what actually changes is you going into your community and saying, what is needed here? What can I do to build a community here? What can I do? Most people like myself who live in a city, it doesn't even have to be a big city. I live in Kalamazoo. It's the third most violent city in all of Michigan, and it's only got like 65,000 people. So it's a very heavy energy. But all of my neighbors are great. I've taken time to get to know the people who live next to me. What I haven't done is go through the whole building and meet everyone, ask them to come out to meet at the park once a month or to come together and talk about social things, what's going on in the neighborhood, how can we help each other. Um, I haven't done that, and I feel drawn to do that. And every time I've tried to do that, there hasn't been a ton of pushback. Most people, when I try to do a little bit of that, like, hey, we'd like to have a cookout or something, people are receptive to that energy. Um, but there's a void there. People are in their homes now. Instead of like when I was a child, kids would go out and play. There's a little bit of that still happening, but in the cities, it's a lot less than it used to be. It's starting to get better now, I've noticed, but there's still this really kind of closed in, self-contained life that a lot of people live. We live it here with our own family, and it sucks. That's why we try to reach out to people. But if you can bring back community, and talk about the hard things with your neighbors, hey, I don't care who you're voting for. What do you feel about this idea? What do you feel about that idea? I noticed that our city is doing this with tax money. What do you feel about that? Should they be doing something else? What do you think about that? The things that are directly affecting everybody should be talked about. And if you start in a small way, just your community, even though it's external, you're pouring your energy into the change you want to see. And that's the most direct way you can. Writing on a ticket for a billionaire or a lifetime political person who's been intertwined with corruption and everything for 30, 40, 50 years, that's not going to make the change that it will walk into your neighbor and asking, hey, what do you think about what the city's doing? Or what do you think about this or that? That right there can actually make a lot of change. And if everyone did that and kind of built out to the next level, hey, let's have a city meeting. And I know they have city hall meetings, but 60,000 people, maybe 20 of people show up for ours in Kalamazoo. Hardly anybody. And it's a very progressive city. So there's not a lot of voice of dissension. You can't really say things that aren't in alignment with what they want without everyone freaking out. I've seen it happen a couple times, which to me was amazing because I think more discussion like that needs to happen. But so these types of things, it still gives you a feeling of being in that system, right? If you're drawn to politics, be a part of it. Go join yourself. If you live in a small town, you know how easy it is to be a treasurer or a mayor, even. I know a guy who went for treasurer and almost won, and he had lived there for 4 years. It wasn't treasurer, it was some other department on his own home council in a city of like 150 people, and he almost won. I mean, it can be another friend, a guy who used to run a very conservative, right-winged political show. Um, he ran for sheriff and did really well. He didn't win, but he ran for sheriff of his. He had military experience. He wanted to pursue his community in the way that he thought he could help best. And how they were putting so many people in jail for drug use instead of rehab, wasting a bunch of money on spending on ridiculous things, going into the schools and putting up vape detectors in the bathroom. He just really didn't like any of that, and he said the only way I can change it is if I step into that role and change it for myself. And just by doing that, he's made all of the connections with the police in that town. The guy who won the election talks to him now. So he's able to make a part because he put his time and energy into being a part in his community, in a place that he could work at, a place that he could fix the energy, and a place to put in his time and effort. And I think if we do that, we have a lot better of a chance than seeing our daily life get
I
better.
agree. It's
Yeah.
it's it's one of those things where spirit can't help you if you aren't in the energy and taking the actions that actually will align you with the right people, the right connections, the right circumstances. If you want something different, you got to start doing some things different. So it's a very it's a very simple concept, and yet so many people resist it. It's like, no, I want a different way. It's got to be, harder, or I don't know. There's a lot of things around that, but I would love to give my audience a chance to do, if you would do a channeling,
Oh, yes.
and maybe I can ask some questions because I know like that you're so good. You're like one of my favorite channelers.
Oh, thank you.
Um, so, because you just have such strong integrity in your channeling, like that, I really, really appreciate it. So, would you be down for that?
I'm 100% down for that. Did you have a preference on who you wanted to talk to, whether it's Trev or Ardif?
No, I'll trust that whoever comes through is the perfect one.
All right. I channeled Ardif last time I was here,
I
did I?
think so.
Okay.
Was it Trevor or Aridif? I don't know.
I can't remember either, but
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Whoever it
let's
is, I know it's going to be perfect.
it will. I agree. All right, I'm gonna take a drink of water here for a
Yeah.
second and then we'll
I'll do the
jump in.
same.
All right, my process is a lot quicker than the last time I was here. The last time I was here, I had to shut down the camera for about 10 minutes while I neutralized to get ready. I had some time with Wendy Kennedy in Sedona in March of this year, and her and the Pleiadians helped me get to a place where I can connect with them real fast, like
Ooh.
within a minute. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't have to go deep in like I did. I mean, I still trans channel, but I don't go to the same place that I used to when I did, but it's still the same connection. So
Yeah.
she really helped me with bringing that. But yeah, I'm gonna take one more drink and then we'll go.
Okay.
All right, have fun. Greetings to Nicole. This is Aridif. That is Aridif. And this is it spelled. We understand that you'll have many queries for this day. But before diving in to those queries, there are two things that we wish to express. The first, above and beyond all things that are expressed in this day, to feel, to know, and to perceive that you are loved and our perspective is the utmost importance. And secondly, it is truly our greatest excitement to be here with you in this moment as well. And of course, you may ask your query at your leisure.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to have the opportunity to ask questions. I've got a few here. So, well, why don't we start with this year has, well, every year seems to be an interesting year, but as this is another election year that we're going into, the energies always seem to amplify and get a little more chaotic and dramatic than usual. What do the energies look like at this particular time for closing out 2024 in the last 3 to 4 months? And what would be the best way for people to navigate those energies for their highest good?
Yes, of course, the collective form of energy that all of you will perceive is a heightening and intensification of the experiences that all of you are holding, that hold the energy of severe disconnection with experience of either the collective consciousness or within parts of your own self. Now, of course, not all humans will feel deeply disconnected, but there will be great disconnections from certain levels of energy. For some of you that are in certain archetypal energies, your experience will be removing yourself from dynamics in which co-creation with others becomes unstable. Some of you will remove your own consciousness away from those experiences and things that have weighed heavy upon your heart or have been burdening to you. Others will simply remove their own energy from previous excitements as no longer they render excitements to that person. So all of you will have shifts and changes where removing parts of your own experience and separating your energy from those things that do not hold the level of either excitement or engagement that is required for your growth and expansion. Now, of course, some humans will inevitably fight that natural cycle of energy. And of course, these humans that work in that way will find more experiences to either disengage from or to latch energetically back into in order to still have that greater experience of being able to disconnect from that which doesn't serve. But humans who tend to work within the constructs of only growing and expanding through tragedy or through any form of imbalance, then of course these entities would continuously provide themselves with ample experiences to engage and disengage with. Now, in the greater collective sense, as all of you are aware, the spectral form of energy in your earth is more visible in this moment and will continue to intensify through past the beginning of your next year in to the greater portion of March and April. Now, of course, the experience and the way that this is perceived will be different from all of you, as all of you are the central component of your own universal creative policies, which means that as you are engaging, the way that you perceive your reality will dictate the way that you receive your reality, the way that you project your consciousness onto that experience, the way that you either interact or react to those experiences also hold a great deal of either the expression being easier or harder for you as well. And these experiences of showing you the spectral form of your reality are there to show you, in fact, the lightest and darkest parts of your consciousness, the happiest and saddest versions of your reality, the most expansive and the least expansive or most contracting in your experience, and those cycles will appear differently to all of you, but that is the greater cycle. Now, of course, we have listened to the words that yourself and Rob have spoke, and both of you hold an understanding in the level and reasons why the forms of energy occur, as we've expressed previously, in order to see where the holes in your ship are. You must first go out upon your boat into the ocean. That is what all of you are doing now. That is where all of you are seeing the leaks inside of the boat of your collective system. And of course, in this moment, both the political and financial system are more so at the forefront for that examination. And of course, with all humans examining one component that all can agree is not in balance, this opens the probability in new ways to be created to find greater balances. But as both of you have said already as well, it starts with that part of your internal consciousness, not with your creative or co-creative mechanisms, not with your political system, which is one of those very systems indeed that require the experience of finding newer and better ways to operate within. So, of course, all of these things and more as you approach. Now we understand many humans also are fixated upon war and additional war. In fact, some humans have gone so far as to perceive the next great world war, and we can share with you that escalation of many conflicts may occur, but also resolutions can be opened within the next 6 to 9 months of your time. And the energy that goes behind the co-creation with all of you in these very months are what will open the doors for those possibilities in the next year as well. So finding the energy internally is important, yes, and also finding how your own consciousness aligns, also very important as well.
Mm. Wow, that was very powerful. Thank you. I'm intrigued. Well, one, I can see how those the energies of war, if you're at war within yourself and there's a lot of resistance and things that you're fighting, I can see how that contributes to the energetic structures of war itself. And so going in and being able to confront that and look at that and find a way to resolve that within yourself is important. But also, you brought up a very interesting point about, we have a choice of how we want to experience expansion and growth. And a lot of people choose trauma and pain to experience their expansion and growth. And I know that I definitely, for the majority of my life, have chosen that as a lot of my expansion and growth. But more recently, in the last couple of years, I've started to see or experience my growth and expansion through pleasure, through extreme happiness. And can you explain how people might experience that expansion in a more less traumatic way, one that brings more pleasure or more joy? What are some ways that people could kind of understand or relate to or anchor into?
Yes, of course, we've always shared by simply working within those compressed or collective forms of excitement that are internal to yourself alone, to operate within that energy with your action. And of course, this will be your greatest pathway. When you think of something that holds true excitement to you, act upon it immediately. Do not focus or fixate into your past or into your future. Yes, use them as reference points. Use them to understand that when I have done the things before, they have created an experience that has not led me well. Or just in the opposite, when I have done these things, then it goes very well. Yes, use that for a reference. Most humans do not use the past for a reference. They are using it as a way to re-engage previous emotions. They are quite literally working in their past emotionally. Now, when you are doing this, you are taking consciousness away from your present moment, which is the moment of manifestation. And of course, taking your energy and projecting it into the future. Humans require this as you live in linear time with your thought. You need to plan. Yes, I require going to a vacation in 3 months. Yes, I must call a hotel. Yes, I must go upon the arrowed plane to go there. Yes, we understand. But when the emotion is projected into that future, oh my God, if I do not have this done, then all things will be lost. Then you are throwing your emotions into the future. And of course, part of your consciousness is severed. So when you are living in the future in fear, living in your past with regret, and not being in balance in the moment because you are thrown every direction, you are down to only a quarter of the amount of consciousness that you have, one quarter being both linear directions, the other being dispersed above you. And in that moment, all humans require the majority of their consciousness to be present to experience a manifestation or creation wholeheartedly. Now, if you are able to be present, if you are able to act when you hold excitement, then of course, most of the battle is done for the human psychology. Now we understand a great deal energies related to belief systems, energies that are related to the conscious mind workings, such as the psychological trains of thoughts that occur. But when you are in excitement, you cannot have an imbalanced mental train because your thoughts only go to that experience of excitement. So working at these levels will open that pathway of growth and expansion for all of you. Now we have had many humans ask the query, I am only excited to travel, I have no money. Therefore it is impossible to do what I am excited, I have no other excitements. First of all, we do not believe that you do not have other excitements, as all humans can hold excitements. Some that are not jumping for joy, but having the possibility to engage at some level with some interest of theirs. Albeit, let us agree that perhaps that is the only excitement held. So where do you wish to travel? You can still travel to that country without being in an airplane or boat. You can visit your internet collective and watch videos about the land in which you crave. You can learn the language of the region. You can learn the history of its people. There are many ways to engage in that co-creation without. So, of course, that brings us to our last point within. How greatly to create without the fear, without trauma. And that is simply expressing that consciousness in that moment, void of any beliefs in how it would occur, void in any expectation, so that all pathways possible remain open to you for that building manifestation. This is where many humans work with manifestation unintentionally, causing their self more resistance. They express, I must have a crystal clear version and path, meaning I can only travel if I win the lottery. I can only win the lottery by focusing on the numbers. And once that is achieved, I will fly in my own jet to this region. Or you can simply say, I desire to be in Iceland and watch all of the pathways of possibility and be open to those pathway possibilities as well.
I agree, and it's a little humorous to me to hear you say it out loud, because I know so many people will use money as the reason why they can't do things. And aligning what you were explaining is like, if I remember going to like a bookstore and I would just flip through pages of pictures, that would excite me about a place that I wanted to travel to, or when it was coming to buying my first condo and having 30 grand in debt and no savings at all, just through getting excited about flipping through furniture magazines or through, design magazines and, imagining myself there without any limitations whatsoever. Whatever I wanted, I just made it there, not worried about how it showed up, but just so I would get excited. And sure enough, 5 months later, somehow it all came together. And so I agree, like the excitement is so important. And that's something when we talk about the expansion and how we want to expand. Do we want to expand through trauma or pain, or do we want to expand through pleasure or excitement? One of the things that I shifted in my meditation practice over the last possibly year, 2 years, is that my meditation music is now stuff that gets me excited and happy. And that's when I know I'm really strong and I'm connected in the energies. And so I am able to manifest a lot easier that way. So I think that's great advice and information. I know my audience will really benefit from that.
Yes, of course.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, I know that when we come into this lifetime, that we come in with different connections to different ancestors. And sometimes there's the thought that we only come in connected to maybe a couple of different ancestors. But I am aware that we can be connected to like very many, like upwards of like 100 different groups of ancestors. What is the reason or the significance of someone coming in with that many connections to ancestors? How is that impacting someone's journey in life?
Yes, of course. First of all of you, whether you understand it or not, are connected to your ancestry, if not as a direct guidance entity or soul guide, then at a minimal capacity through your DNA itself, and that DNA that is held within your physical body is a vessel from the non-physical realm to physical reality. In fact, DNA is the broadcast antenna for the non-physical consciousness is felt through the emotions in the chakra system that lead outward to the emotion and mental body and auric field. So your DNA itself connects all of you to thousands of ancestors as well. Now, when you are speaking of ancestors in spirit guide forms or in guidance forms and settings, many of you have ancestors to previous incarnations. Nothing that is within your family or DNA lineage in this life whatsoever, yet you still hold soul bonds with many of these entities. Now, the reason why it occurs with many humans is that being grounded to the earth is vitally important for all souls that inhabit and co-create with earth. Most star seeds who enter the earth collective consciousness have to spend multiple incarnations with dozens of entities from their own star system collectively, simply in order to survive the extreme form of pressure that occurs to beings when entering such a dense dimension and realm comparative to what once they came from. So, of course, the experience itself requires a great deal of that assistance available, even to humans who are not aware that guidance exists in that plane.
Mm. Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And so one of the reasons is survival. Okay. And then also, okay. Are you bringing in, can I ask, I'm assuming that you're also helping those ancestral lines work through certain things through you? Like there's certain things that you're working through for the lines?
Yes, of course, especially in humans who have been upon Earth for many incarnations. Most humans will find a family in which they are engaged deeply into and ride that lineage through part of their incarnation cycle. Many of you have done so, and when you step away from linear time, when you integrate back into your higher self after leaving physical reality, You understand that there is no linear time in that way. It is only that experience grounded and based within the dimensional plane and realm that you are in this moment. Outside of that, once you reintegrate, you are out of that time feeling and either into more secular forms of time or fluid forms of time. And once entering that energy, you are able to see your oversoul's totality, or at minimum, a great amount of the oversoul. So you will choose those parts of your oversoul that are also connected to your family lineage and live through that experience of continuation, of reincarnation in one family repetitively. Now, of course, this is not the only way that humans experience consistent incarnation, but pejoratively. So when you go into this incarnation having already been 30 members of your previous family, then of course you are doing so to help bring healing both backwards and forwards through time with your DNA by releasing the traumas that are held in human DNA. By releasing that energy, you're only creating less resistance for the future generations, as well as linking back into that direct format of co-creation with those past versions of yourself or others that are related to the family as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that in one of my generational trauma courses that we worked with, and that was definitely a theme. So, okay, speaking of galactic entities, um, I kind of want to ask. This is a little bit for me, but I think my audience will definitely be curious. Last night, I connected with a galactic race that I don't know their name, but I know what they presented as. And it was like a chief warrior race that the colors were predominantly black, brown, gray, and white. And I remember seeing big feathered, not that it wasn't a bird, but it was more like, like feathers on, I don't even know how to say, a cape or something, but kind of coming out of the back and draped over, and just had a very chief warrior kind of energy. And in order to connect with this race, I was using my hands and generating a lot of energy. And as I was generating a lot of energy, this took quite a bit of energy for me to do. But within my hands, I started to see constellations of different stars appearing in the space between my hands. Could you, I don't know if you're able to give me any information about that, or what I was exactly doing in that way, because I was just guided to do that.
Yes, of course, first of all, the entities that worked with you were in fact that of galactic consciousness. Now we understand those that are native or indigenous to your North American regions are frequently in physical appearances that are similar to the entities that you are co-creating with. But the Comanchekai are the entities that you co-created with. These entities were telepathically linking to entities that were in the past of your North American continental and South American continental co-creations, and working through telepathic forms of communicating through plant medicines in order to find information, to utilize information early in the development of the humans in that region. This is why the evolution was received so strongly. This is why the energies were linked, and the reason that you work so deeply and so easily and naturally in that energy is that you've experienced many Native American lifetimes in the Earth collective consciousness, and done so naturally, having lived from the effect of teachings from this race, only unknowingly from that race, and several thousands of years after that contact was dried upwards.
Mm. And can you explain also, like, why was I seeing different constellations, like forming in between my hands and shifting and changing? Like, what was going on there? Because I've never experienced that before.
Yes, of course. The reason why you're perceiving this is a light encodement that is done with the construct of geometry, but doing so through the symbols of your galactic consciousness. Now, of course, the energy that was written into that encoding must come to in some way. And what the energy is showing you, not only are you working with galactic forms of energy, but you're also working with it malleable inside of your own hands, showing you the symbolic nature of how akin the energy is to energies that you're already aware with and that work with. So working with this form of light language, working with this form of galactic engagements in that co-creation, of course, will be more natural for you than it would be for many other humans who are not in co-creations or as deep connections with either their previous incarnations or directly with this race of beings as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so the other thing that I was able to experience last night was, for the first time, I seemed to find myself in a dimension that I don't even know how else to describe it. It felt like diamond, gossamer, kind of butterfly energy. Like, it just seemed like there were so many strings of diamonds on gossamer, like that just felt that was what the energy felt like. And so can you explain what that is? Because I've never experienced that before either.
Yes, of course. When you are feeling that energy in co-creation, you are receiving the energy of what the consciousness within that realm feels. Now, of course, it was not a dimension per se, although it felt as if the entirety of the rules and regulations of that experience were drastically different. Now, of course, these energies were six density layers of consciousness, so it is as far removed from your experience, but still holding physicality in the experience as six density is the end of the incarnation cycle. It is the end of physicality itself. What this energy represent was when you are connecting with the planetary consciousness of co-creation with entities that are very similar to the earth fairies. These entities were showing you what their sixth density environment was like and showing you the energy. Now, of course, diamonds, gossamer, etc., the energy that you are feeling and perceiving is simply the energetic properties of these entities that you were perceiving in a very visceral and real way, as to show you how deeply ingrained going into that sixth density layer of consciousness is, but also feeling into the energy of that consciousness and having something tangible for you to perceive as well.
Mm. Because it felt very transformational. Like because the butterfly energy kept coming through, although I wasn't sure why. I don't know. It's just because it felt very gossamer like a butterfly wings almost. But um, yeah, it was beautiful.
Yes, of course, that energy in of its own self relates to the consciousness of entities that you are co-creating with. Yes, that energy is very similar to the winged nature of the fairies in your experience, and this is what the symbol felt as if to convey.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, of
Thank you so
course.
much for that. Um,
Yes, of course.
okay, the last question I guess I would like to ask is, what will be the most prominent theme for 2025 for most of the collective? as of like right now? Because I know things can change, but what is the major theme of 2025?
Yes, of course, if without placed in a limited amount of words, it is acceleration of the understanding. And of course, we are sharing with you that many of the systems that you understand must be perceived in order to be changed. And of course, as Rob and yourself have talked of this energy, you have explored thoroughly in 20 and 25 is where some of the very first breakings of old energy will start to occur for the collective to perceive. And despite the fear that comes behind old things becoming no longer relevant and new things becoming a part of your experience, many humans would rather relate to joy in short term with that co-creation rather than requiring long-term understanding and building of new systems in order for those that are old to be removed or that are old to be broken. So of course, the acceleration of understanding yourself, others, your environment, and of course, those same systems in that next year.
Okay. So that's going to, I mean, in some case, again, it depends on perception. I mean, some people will celebrate that, and then I think others will um, be quite scared.
Yes, of course, but with the fear of those that do hold fear, you will notice even a shift inside of their own consciousness towards not holding on, as you've seen many previous systems that would be worked with to be changed or shifted. There will be an energy behind that consciousness that is more understanding that, yes, this was not a great system. It needed to go and to die off into the experience of our collective consciousness as well.
Mm,
So there will be less of a mourning and more the understanding, even though it will, of course, promote fear in certain humans, yes.
okay. Wow. Well, this has been very interesting. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Yes, of course, we also wish to express that as we've co-created with you, you're asking queries about your collective, about yourself, that we have never heard you ask previous. And this is an important factor to understanding one another. We perceive your energy throughout time. And in this moment, we are perceiving those parts of your energy that we have never perceived previously. As we are doing that, as we engage with your higher self, we are able to start perceiving parts of our consciousness that was never perceived previously as well. So we congratulate you for the growth you are having, and we thank you for the growth you are giving us through these co-creations as well. We also wish to bid you adieu for this day, and yet again, the one thing expressed throughout this entire co-creation that we perceive as the utmost importance to know, to feel, and to perceive that you are loved. We bid you adieu.
Thank you.
Yes, of course, adieu.
All right. There you
Oh,
go.
how are you doing?
You're doing okay. It's always a little fun coming back, but
Yeah.
it's not as hard as it used to be. It's not as hard as it used to be coming back anymore. Since I learned the new routine. So
Oh, I'm so glad that you
um,
were able to learn that. That was
yeah.
most interesting.
Mm.
Do you remember anything, or do you have to go back and listen?
I'll be listening when you put it out on
Oh, you
YouTube.
do. You need to
Yeah.
listen
Yeah.
because that was some next level stuff. That
Okay.
was that was probably some of the most high level um channeling that I have heard in a very long time.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I started with Aridif because that's who I felt drawn to connect with. Was it him the whole time, or was he
Yeah, it
in
was him the
Treb?
whole time. Hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because Aridif goes hard. Yeah, he's pretty hardcore when he shares. He kind of just puts it all out there and trusts that if you don't hear it first or understand it at first, you'll get it or hear it when you need to. So he just kind of lets it all out there. Treb's a bit more gentle about how he approaches subjects. Will go,
I just love that. That was
yeah.
so amazing. So he just kind of did a little forecast of the remainder of 2024 and how um people can experience that more to like their better good, but also the choices that we have collectively for the potential of war or not, and how we can contribute to the higher timeline versus the lower one. And that there's
Oh,
still like this kind of fluctuation period where it could go either way. Um, and the information that came through on that was so profoundly deep and I know very, very helpful to the audience. In fact, guys, I please leave comments, especially if you're on YouTube, but even if you're on Spotify, like please leave comments about that because it was so deep, like really deep. It wasn't just the usual kind of stuff, which I wasn't expecting that, to be quite honest, but it was really
sure.
a lot deeper than what I was thinking. And then I asked a few little of my personal questions of a race I connected with last night that I've never been able to connect with. And so I think that the audience may have liked that. I don't know. We'll see. You guys let me know. But there was a few things, and of course, we looked into 2025 as well.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was all very helpful information. Like it was useful. It wasn't just tell me because I'm curious. Like it actually was very, very useful.
That's amazing. I'm definitely excited to hear. I'm always excited because I know how good you are at doing what you do too, asking questions and stuff. So my interest was there, but now I'm even more excited to hear
Yeah.
hear when
Well,
it comes
luckily
out. That'll be wonderful.
this is coming out fast. So,
Yeah.
I know that you have an event coming up in a few months that people may want to join, but you also have a course you're releasing very soon. Do you want to share with the audience what's going on?
Yeah, the course is starting in September 1st. It's a live course. We have evergreen courses, so once they're out, we keep them out, and then if we ever change things, then we'll take them back off and add to them and re-release them. But um, this is a Galactic Ambassador Part 2 course, and this is a co-creation with the Galactic Ambassadors. Basically, we're talking to four different races of beings. The first one was amazing. We talked to like Syrians, Arcturians, um, Andromedans, and Pleiadians, and basically one member of each of the race came to us and shared how to work with that race more. And then they shared their perspective on the human relations with their race, and then they shared a technique to help connect. And the way we work our courses is after we release it, like on September 1st, then in the next few days, as people listen, they'll send in their questions, and then those questions will get asked to the being who's being channeled, and then we'll give the answers out. Um, after the next one gets released, we'll put the answers back out for the first one. So we do that as a course, which is exciting. And this one's going to have four different races of beings. You can always go to E.T Whisperer and go to the courses or classes tab. It was called classes. It's been changed to courses, but I don't know if that's seeable on the internet yet. But you can go to that tab to look at all the old courses and to sign up for the new one. The new one's called Galactic Ambassador Co-Creation 2. And then the big event is in January 345. We're doing the channel panel. My wife and I started the channel panel back in 2013. It's a multi-channeler event. This one's going to be live in Sedona. We have Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, going to be there with us. We have Wendy Kennedy, who's channeling the Pleiadian. We have Lisa Royal Holt, who channels Sasha and many other beings, who's going to be there. Myself, my wife, Kalina Angel. We also have Sean Swanson, who channels Aishwa the Aiel. We have our dear friend Daniel Scranton, who's going to be there. Jamie Price is going to be there. Tyler Ellison's going to be there. Jim Charles from Human Colonies is going to be there. We've got a lot of people gonna be there. 17 presenters over 3 days, and we have workshops going on. If you can't make it to Sedona, we're live streaming, but we're not live streaming the workshops, only the main hall. So basically, if you buy a ticket for 3 days in person, you get to watch every channeler on the event channel one time in the main hall and take questions and answer from the audience. And then if you want to do a workshop, those are more specific to each of the channelers, to what they want to teach. For instance, Daniel Scranton not going to channel in his, he's only going to teach channeling, or maybe he will channel, but he's teaching others how to channel. Daryl Anka won't be channeling in his workshop. It'll be the Unified Theory of Metaphysics, but on and on. It's a really big event. It's always crazy when a bunch of channelers get in the same place at the same time with a bunch of entities. And we have 700 seats available at the venue. So we're going to have a lot of people there. And when that many people get together, the last time we did a channel panel was in 2019. Things with our daughter, when our daughter was born. But it was crazy. It was over 300 people, and it was absolutely insane. This one's going to be bigger and more crazy. So it's really exciting.
I will definitely put the links to your website and courses.
Sure.
And also the live event in the description box for all of you watching on YouTube, and of course in the show notes for all you listening on the podcast. So definitely check that out. Rob, it was such a pleasure. Thanks so much for reaching out to me, because, you know, I know that I tried to get you back on like a little while ago, but I know things are so hectic. So
yeah,
this was the right time, and I'm glad we were able to make it work.
It worked perfectly, and I'm so glad to be here too. And thank you for having me on. I always love hearing your experiences with how good you are at questions, and your own experiences. When I had you on my show too, it was really great to hear your personal story. So thank you for everything you do, and thank you for having me on.
No, it's such a pleasure. And to my audience, I hope you enjoyed this one. In fact, I know you did. I don't even have to ask you. So all the links are in the description below. And remember, guys, like 3 weeks away to my 3-day 180 retreat in Breckenridge, Colorado. And just so you guys know, I will be utilizing that hand channeling technique at the actual retreat to assist in a few things there. So that energy I'm going to be bringing to the retreat, which is one of the reasons why I think it came online. But if you want a ticket or you're trying to get there, just reach out to me, Nicole@NicoleFrolick.com, or go to the retreat link in below and fill out the form and grab your ticket. I'd love to see you there. Guys, have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.